Well, guess what, everybody? You tuned into the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. Ron Placone and I are going on tour June 20th through the 24th. Come on out. We need your support. Nashville, Huntsville, Alabama, Asheville, North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, and Atlanta. The links, all the tickets are up for sale. They are in GrahamElwood.com, which is the links are below. So if you're in those areas, come out to the show, guys. They're not just a stand-up comedy show. It's the Progressive Comedy Tour. We get candidates that are running and other progressive organizations to show up. And there's a cool meet and greet after the show. And, it's more of a political rally and with good jokes. So check that out. So this article was submitted by Adam Martin, who is a Patreon backer. Thank you so much, Adam, and all the Patreon supporters. This is one of the things you get to do if you support the Patreon. Is you can be interactive with the content and suggest certain things. Now, this article that he submitted is from Clickhole, which is a comedy site, but it really, the joke of this particular article shows how horrifying the U.S. is. It says 5 U.S.-backed regimes that failed so hard they won, and it's being sarcastic, but it's pointing out what this does in a comedic way. Look at all these horrifying regimes we've backed. So when we talk about regime change, it relates. So it's funny. It's like the Onion is more on point with its news than the corporate media right now, which is nuts. So they talk about Augusto Pinochet in Chile. When the U.S. orchestrated the overthrow of socialist Salvador Allende to put a stop to, among other things, torture of Chileans and widespread human rights abuses, who would have thought it would have led to 17 years of state-sanctioned torture and brutal oppression at the hands of dictator Augusto Pinochet? That's like an example of what we do. And I'm sure we got to get rid of the socialist, right? I'm sure it was under the guise of, communism. We can't let communism close to our borders. No, we can't let socialism threaten capitalist profits. So who are we going to back? A guy that's even more of a torturer. It's like Hillary Clinton, laughing and celebrating at the killing of Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi he wasn't some benevolent leader. He was no Gandhi. But killing him created this awful power vacuum in Libya that now ISIS has taken over. There's open slave markets. Yay, America came to help. We had to get rid of Saddam Hussein. It couldn't have been because he said he was no longer using the petrodollar. That had nothing to do with it. No. That had nothing to do with it. We were spreading freedom. And then, wow, this sounds familiar. Then power vacuum and ISIS took over. Here's another great country we helped out in, the right-wing junta in El Salvador. How do you defeat the ideological threat posed by communist guerrillas? Communism, I sense a theme. By financing right-wing paramilitary death squads that, bolstered by U.S. funds, raped and massacred thousands, traveling from village to village to spread their ideology. Wow. So in the 70s, the 60s, 70s, and 80s during the Cold War, we used communism to justify our military overthrows to get American corporate interests involved. Now we use terrorism, but we're bringing back Red Scare with the Rush. They meddled in our elections. Oh, how dare they spend $100,000 in Facebook ads? Oh, does that make me a Russian apologist? That makes me a fan of Putin? No, Putin's ex-KGB. He's not a good dude. But the American government has helped create, we funded these paramilitary organizations, these death squads in El Salvador. We funded them. The aforementioned Shiites in Iraq, The war in Iraq was an epic fail for sure, even though it's finished now. The fail just keeps on coming. The government that the U.S. established to replace Saddam Hussein is trying to break the world record and fail, ceding power and strategic interest to extremist militants pretty much on the reg, despite the $14 billion U.S. investment to stabilize the country following the troop withdrawal. And, you know, with this jackass in the White House, we'll put more boots on the ground. He just upped the troop count in Afghanistan. He wants us to go to war with Iran because Iran, they stopped using the dollar. They switched to the euro. So, they became a terrorist state. I told you that. The minute that happens, it's hilarious now. Just watch. Any other country says we're no longer using the dollar. Terrorism. Or they got weapons of mass destruction. They got a big bomb. When any of these governments, the Central American governments had socialism, then we called it communism when we came in there and got it out. See how that works? It's so funny. Like, I saw some posts on Twitter of from people who grew up in Central America were just like, this is laughable that America is crying election meddling from Russia. We sent death squads. We financed death squads. People were raped and murdered because of people sold death squads that the United States funded. We helped create 130 child deaths a day in Yemen. A day in Yemen. But we're the good guys. And if I say that, I must hate women and be a Putin apologist or an Assad apologist. Manuel Noriega, Panama. Because he transitioned from CIA operative to the military dictator of Panama, you'd think the U.S. could count on Manuel Noriega to defend its interest. But nope, between all the extrajudicial killings and large-scale drug trafficking that characterized his regime, the fail reached epic proportions that the U.S. eventually had to withdraw its support and detain him as a prisoner of war. Oh, God. Oh, and then the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Wait, who? The Soviet Union. More communism. We had to stop more communism. Defending American economic interests from Soviet aggression, the Carter and Reagan administrations generously aided Afghan insurgents throughout the late 70s and early 80s, perpetuating a grueling decade of war that left over 1 million Afghans dead and 6 million displaced. Also left it the most heavily mined country in the world. And I was there and would see kids on minefields. And I was at a base outside of Jalalabad, Afghanistan. And this soldier was very cool, took us to the outskirts, and there was this barbed wire, razor wire. On the other side of it was a minefield. There was a downed Russian MiG. It was a rusted out Russian MiG. This footage is in Afghanistan. And these kids saw us coming and ran along the side of the minefield. None of my 6 nieces and nephews or none of my friends' kids in America have ever had to go through running on a minefield. And then we fed them through razor wire. The disarray provided fertile conditions for the Taliban to rise up and take power, ultimately creating a whole new mess of problems for the U.S. From 1 to 10 on the fail scale, this would be a 20. Yeah. Oh, but wait, we're still in Afghanistan. It's America's longest war. Trillions of dollars, that's with a T, being spent in Afghanistan. This started in the 70s with Carter. Yeah. Because Afghanistan is a key point to get pipelines, and now there's minerals there for cell phones. And shit, we need the poppy. We need the poppy for heroin. I'm sure there's pharmaceutical companies getting the poppy to make Oxycontin. Pharmaceutical companies are definitely profiting from the opioid epidemic here in America. And we blew up a poor country. Outstanding. Good work, America. Way to go. Way to go. Adam Martin, thank you so much for submitting this and showing all of us the ridiculous lineage of America's freedom helping. We're going to help you with some freedom. Yeah. Yep, guys. I think your mouth needs my freedom dick in it. Yeah, I think I'm just going to jam my freedom dick down your mouth. And if you don't like it, you must hate America. You need my American freedom dick jammed in your mouth. Right? Thanks for supporting the show, guys.